Hello, welcome to a My Friendly Neighborhood video. I've been playing a lot of this in the past couple weeks, and it's become one of my favorite games this year. So today, I wanted to show off something really cool that this game lets you do. I've never seen a game do this before, but when you beat My Friendly Neighborhood, you unlock a free cam mode that lets you fly around and explore out of bounds. And this is usually something that you'd have to download like a mod to be able to do, but the developers actually let you fly around and explore things you're not supposed to see. And because of this, there's also a lot of secrets hidden out of bounds that the devs intentionally left laying around. So I went through all the rooms in the game and searched for anything I could find out of bounds, and I wanted to show off everything I found in this video. I'll be going through the entire game, so there will be some spoilers here and there, and if a room isn't in this video, it means I didn't find anything in that room. But we'll get started flying around at the very start of the game, right when you get out of the truck. And this is the big outdoor area where you start the game. And you can see there's this whole city rendered here that you normally don't get to look at much at all. But this city isn't the secret I wanted to show here. There's actually this underground. There's like this scared Norman face hidden here under the floor. And I'm not sure if this is like concept art or just some leftover art that wasn't used, but there's a lot of stuff like this hidden in the game. But this was all I found in the city area. There might be something else out there. I haven't really looked extensively at every building, but this was all that I was able to find here. So from here, we'll move inside the hotel to look at our next thing. So here in the hotel lobby, there's not really a ton to look at in this area. There's nothing really out of bounds to look at in this zone. But there is this ominous floating door up over this area that's just kind of hovering here for some reason. And if you enter it, it takes you to the cube room. Welcome to the cube room. There's a 25% chance there's something interesting on the other side of this cube. And you can see it's just this giant cube, and for a little bit of scale, here's the door I came in on, and here I am backing up a little bit, but you can see it's just massive. But with this room, when you enter it, it picks a random number between 1 and 4, and when you get to the other side, you're either lucky or it just tells you to try again. But it looks like I got lucky here, and so it shows you this. Have you seen any of the rubber ducks scattered around the world? Prop designer Cody has hidden a duck every time he worked on a room, and to this point, only he knows where all of them are. This is a thing you may have noticed when you were playing the game normally, but there's hidden rubber ducks placed in a lot of the rooms. I'll show a few examples here, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to show all of these, but these ducks are just a nice little scavenger hunt you could do if you wanted to. And also, here's what the room looks like when you don't get lucky. It says, sorry, no luck, try again. There's a door on this side to reset. But that's all there is in the cube room. I really like this room. I think it's a really funny idea that you have to walk all the way around this giant cube just for a chance at finding a secret. But from here, we'll move back outside for one more thing in this section, which is this Norman that you can see walking towards stage 4. You're never really meant to see this, but with free cam, you're able to peek behind the scenes and see that he just kind of poofs out of existence instead of going through the door. But that was just a quick thing I wanted to show outside here, and from here we can move on to stage 4. And this one's kind of quick, but if you immediately go out of bounds when entering stage 4, you'll see this Norman just falling to his death for some reason. And I'm not really sure why this happens. It might be tied to this model that you see in the door here when you first enter this area. It might be some sort of animation or, I don't know, extra model just sitting around. I'm not really sure. I don't know enough about game development to know why this happened, but I thought it was really funny that there's just this Norman just falling to his death in this room. But from here, the next room I wanted to show was the room where you get the Rolodexer. If you fly out of bounds in this room, there's some cool concept art for the Rolodexer gun. I guess it was originally called the Bookshot, and you would load books into it, and I guess different books would have done different damage, different effects maybe. I kind of wish this made it into the final game, but also the Rolodexer itself is just a really cool idea for a gun. Like a gun that just shoots letters from a Rolodex is just so unique. But somewhere in development, they must have scrapped this first pass design, although you can see a little bit of this design show up in the shotgun's design, but we'll see that later. You can also see the concept art for the second pass of the Rolodexer that looks much more similar to the final design we ended up with. But I think it's really cool that this concept art is here. Most games would have put this in like an extras menu, but the devs of My Friendly Neighborhood had some fun and hid them around for curious people to find. And we'll see some more concept art like this later, but now I wanted to move into the prop department for our next thing. So here we are in the prop department, and I don't know why they have this, but if you go out of bounds, you can see just a big name, Travis, This must be Travis's room. I don't know who Travis is. Maybe they were a designer on this. I'm not sure. I'll have to look through the credits and confirm. But yeah, there's just a giant Travis out here for some reason. No idea why. But yeah, that's just there. But moving on from there, we'll go to the makeup hallway next. This one doesn't really have much in it, though for some reason there is this plant above the room. It looks like Pearl's eyeballs, but you can see it's like a plant that the eyes move and bounce. And I don't know what it was for or why it's here, but it just is. It's kind of creepy. Oh, they move and everything. That's so weird. See, the eyeballs like move to look at you? Yeah, they stare at you. I wonder what this was for or why this is here. Does it show up anywhere else in the rest of the game? Maybe it was meant to replace these roses or something? I don't really know. But yeah, that's just a neat little thing in this room. Then we get to the stairwell where we find the first of many weird secrets like this, where they hide giant versions of the puppet models off screen like this, just looming over the area. And this is something we'll see a lot of. But this is Arnold. He's featured near the end of the game, and he's just gonna eat this staircase. So I don't know, it's so weird to see these like massive puppets just looming over everything. We'll see a lot of these, so this is the first one of this. This is Arnold. Next up is this hallway, the one right outside the safe room right here. This one, I don't know what this is, but it looks like concept art for something with this animatronic mouse and this girl. I don't know what it is. I think it's marked as Neira, like Neira in the game files, so I don't know what that is. If anyone knows what this is, let me know, because it looks so cool. I love this like messed up animatronic mouse, and I don't know what's going on here, but it gets me really curious, and I'm wondering why it's here too. But yeah, that's just looming above this safe room area. And then next up, we have the other dressing room over here, which has this dresser in it. I want to explain this in another video, but a lot of people have wondered what's in it, and it's actually just a rubber duck. There's nothing actually in it. It's kind of just a joke by the developers, and I'll explain it in another video. But in it, there's just a rubber duck, and that's it. And also in this room, there's a little like Norman drawing on the wall over here with crowns. But if you go through the wall, you get jump scared by like an evil, unfriendly Norman just sitting and hanging off the edge of this level. I thought this was really cool, and it creeped me out because I was like just looking at this art and I was like, oh, what is this? And then I accidentally poked my head through and got jump scared by nasty Norman. Yeah, there's just an evil Norman chilling under here. I thought that was kind of interesting. But that is it for the dressing room. Then another thing is this room, which has the glyph puzzle and the safe in it. There's some hidden stuff behind this little pink wall here. You can actually see this little duck here. He's playing drums. Dude's grooving out. He's a very talented duck, but he's just drumming away over here. No sound coming out, sadly, but he's just drumming. But there is also another thing in this room. There's another one of these floating doors over here, and if you go through it, it'll put you in a room that's playing all the trailers for My Friendly Neighborhood in release order. I think this one here is the original teaser trailer for the game. I'm not going to sit here and watch all 6 of these trailers, but this room is here for a reason, and I don't really want to get into why in this video, because that's something you should be able to figure out for yourself. Oh, yeah, just a neat little area that exists, and you can kind of move around in it too. It's a little weird. It's like your camera's just been replaced with the trailer, but that's all that's in that room. There's just trailers that play in there. There's nothing else in that room. And the next thing here in stage 4 is this room with the taxi in it. Out of bounds, there are some pictures of who I'm assuming is John Szymanski. I hope I said that right, but this is the lead developer of the game, and they even left a message here that says, "Hello there, thank you for playing my game." But yeah, it's just a big thank you room, and I thought it was kind of silly of the developer to put these pictures of himself in here with a big thank you message on it. But from there, we'll move on to the main stage area, and weirdly, there's not a lot really to look at in this area. You'd think there would be a lot of off-camera stuff in this giant stage 4 section, but there's not much from what I've noticed. Although I have noticed that when you go into certain rooms, like this bathroom over here, the entire rest of this area is loaded, but it's like an older version of it. See, the laundromat sign is different, and it kind of like slapped on top of the coin laundry logo it's normally there, and some of the textures aren't there, some of the doors just aren't there, but they partially load it. And I think it's an older version of it, because if you go underneath, you can see there's this puzzle, and you can even interact with this. It looks like it would have been some kind of pipe puzzle that would have moved these pipes to connect and, I don't know, get something to flow. I don't know what it was for. You can't do anything else besides look at this little control panel, but it looks like it's some sort of unused puzzle that got scrapped in an older version, but still shows up in this older stage 4 level. There's also this thing up here, which I don't know what this is. I'm not sure if it's associated with another secret or something, or it may just be something that was left over. But it just says EKUYCJYFQR, but you can't really do anything with it. You can just look at it. And I'm guessing it's just something else that was left over, or maybe it's some secret. I'm not really sure. But that's all I was able to find in this big stage area, and there is one last room in stage 4 that I want to show before we move on to the sewers. And that is here in the scenic department. This room has another giant puppet in it, this time the little hand puppet that sounds like Elmo, and he has the mustache and the glasses. This is like my favorite puppet in the game. I love him. But he's just over here, T-posed and about to take a bite out of the room. But I think that is it for stage 4, and so now we'll move on to the sewers. So now here we are in Ray's sewer, where in the starting room, there was a thing looming over the whole time, this giant pearl just looming over you the whole time and staring down at you with these beady little eyes. I love that these are here. They're so creepy to see, and it's so interesting to me that they were just like here the whole time, just slightly out of bounds so you couldn't see them at all. But yeah, there's just a giant pearl here hanging out. And there's another one of these in the boat room over here. If you pull the camera back out of bounds, you can see this giant Norman looming over the area. And he's not really as creepy because he's just kind of smiling and happy, but it's still weird to think about how he's just here out of bounds at all times. Next, we'll go to the main hallway of the sewer, where there's no secrets hidden out of bounds here, but I did notice a neat detail whenever Ray's in one of the pipes in the room. If you go out of bounds, you can see the rest of Ray's body above the pipe. It's cool because you never really get to get a good look at the rest of Ray's body, but you can see he's this weird centipede worm creature, and I never knew that before seeing this, since you can't really see his body from the front of the pipe. But that was just a cool little detail I noticed. And moving on from there, the next room we'll be taking a look at is Ray's stage room, the one with the big "We Fixed It" sign. And here you can find a hidden door off camera. Like, if you just make an immediate right when you come in here, there is a door right here, and it leads to another one of these cube rooms. And I think this one's just the same as the other one in the hotel, where it'll pick that number between 1 and 4, and if it picks the correct number, you get to see that thing about the rubber ducks in all the rooms, and if it's not, it just tells you to try again. But maybe there are other things in this room. I'm not sure why there's a second cube room here, but I've only been able to get it to show the duck message again when I succeed. But after that, the next room I wanted to show was the puzzle room, where you do the punch card puzzle. There is actually a cool secret up here, since this room isn't normally visible without going through like this loading door. There's actually some hidden graphics hidden up here on the wall. There's these little decals, and I think this is a reference to another of Ducky Dev's games, Rubber Ducky and the Rainbow Gun. This creature is from that game, from what I can tell on Steam. I haven't played it myself, but you can also hear some music coming from this too. And I guess it's just a reference to Ducky Dev's older work, which is kind of neat. And also, if you go into the safe room, there's another little hidden thing over here. There's a piece of concept art for Leonard, it looks like, where he must have had a cane in the past. And this looks like it's kind of like a newspaper scrap of a concept art, so I'm not sure where the rest of it is. Maybe it's hidden somewhere else in the game. I'm not sure, but yeah, you can see a little bit of old concept art for Leonard. Kind of cool. But up next is this rock tunnel that you can take to get to the lower sewers. And normally it's just this, tunnel of rocks. Not too much going on in it. But if you take the camera outside the tunnel, you can see there's this giant pig hand puppet trying to eat the entire tunnel. It's terrifying. I also never noticed the pig has this weird red eye. Maybe it's always has that, I'm not sure, but maybe I just missed it. But yeah, that's just hidden right out of sight in this tunnel section. And then after that, we've got the big circular room in the sewers that leads to a bunch of other rooms. And there's nothing out of bounds here, but there is another secret in this room that you can normally access by doing a small puzzle, and it opens this like rock right here. But if you try to fly through it in free cam, it gives you this message: you cheater, trying to get in here in camera mode. So you can't just fly into that room and you actually need to do the puzzle. I thought this was kind of cute. But the next secret's actually in that room, so I need to real quick hit these bricks and open up that rock. And so now that that's open, we can now go into the rat room here. And if we go out of bounds, we can see this big thank you wall of, I'm assuming these are like profile pictures of people that supported the game, maybe through Patreon or some sort of backing system, I'm not sure. But there's a bunch of profile pictures of people with a big thank you message around them. It's just a nice little way to celebrate those who supported the game during its development, and I think it's kind of cool. But after that, the next one is a little bit of a strange one that I'm not really sure why it's here, but in this room with the fuse box, if you fly out of bounds, you can see these 3 arrows, 2 of them facing right and then 1 facing up. I don't know what this means. I don't know if this was like something the developer was using to orient with, or if it's like a super secret hidden code. I don't know. Maybe it's something, I'm not sure, but it's just kind of here floating above the room. And the next thing I wanted to show is in the other room you can open once you get the star fuse. In this room, before going to the pirate set, there is actually, out of bounds, there's a huge goblet about to eat the whole room. It's just another one of these models looming over the area. I also never noticed until recently that Goblet has salt shaker fingers. I didn't know that. It's kind of a cool detail. Also, they have this lobster apron? I'm not sure what to call it, but yeah, there's just a giant goblet hovering in this room. Next, we've got the bolt cutter room where you pick up the bolt cutters from Norman here. But if you take the camera outside of the room, you can see there's another giant puppet. This time it's Junebug trying to eat the room as usual. I'll never get tired of finding these because they're so horrifying to see, these giant puppets. I don't know, they're such an interesting idea for a secret, and I really like them. But moving on from that, the next off-camera thing is in the safe room here. There's actually some floating Rubens just hovering above the safe room for some reason. You're not able to interact with them, you're not able to eat them. They're just the same sandwich that you saw at the beginning of the game in the truck, and they're above this safe room for some reason. But now we'll go to the dock where if you go out of bounds in here, you can see a giant Ricky model. And this one's a little weird too because you can actually see his entire sock body. It's not really something you get to see in game. He kind of just pokes out of holes and you don't ever get to see his full body. So this model is actually the entire model of Ricky. And you can see he's kind of just pogged out over the boat here. And speaking of this boat, we can take this to the other end of the sewer to see our next thing. And so after that boat ride, we can now take the camera out of bounds and we can see a giant Leonard overlooking this area. And the way he's lit makes him look so much more menacing. I love finding these so much. They're so cool to look at. But from here, since we're on the other side of the sewers now, we can loop back around to where the novelist room's at. And this is the room where you first get the shotgun, the novelist. But if you check behind it, you can see some concept art for it. And it looks like it was originally called the Secretary, and this was their first pass on it, where it looked like you rolled like scrolls into it or pages of books into it. And it had these, what looks like a sticker system where you could have different stickers that would modify the gun. Like this dolphin would give you fire rate, the turtle and the WoW would give you a damage boost. It looks like they had some sticker system, which I honestly kind of would want to see. It sounds like a cool idea to be able to further modify the guns in this game. It also looks like the shotgun was originally called the Rolodexer too, where the shotgun would have had that Rolodex in it and had a magazine. Maybe it was a rifle back then, but it looks like they swapped that to the pistol later and made this into the Secretary. And they took that book concept from the Rolodexer and moved it to the Secretary instead. And it looks like they would have had different books for different styles of firing, which again, that's another thing I kind of wish was in the game. I don't know what kind of different styles they would have, but it would have added an extra layer of depth to the gun, because right now all you can do is just shoot it. That's it. But that's the novelist room. Just some cool concept art in it. And now we're in the final areas of this, where we have this hallway here, which I don't believe there's anything in it, but there is this bathroom on the side here that has a giant George just looming over it. He's terrifying. These godlike giant puppets just holding up the world. I love it. I don't know like what else to say, but yeah, there's a giant George hovering over this area, and it's really creepy. And then there's also this locker room over here. This one has kind of an interesting thing in it where if you take the camera outside, you can see this little light over here. It's actually a map. I don't know what map it is because you can't really see it. All right, I added a light into the scene. It looks like a map of the sewers, but this is not the same map, it doesn't look like. Yeah, from what I can tell, it's not the same map. It has a similar layout. Maybe this is just an older version of the map, but you can interact with it. It's off camera here and pick it up if you want to. Oh, and it actually gives you the map when you pick it up. But that was just an older concept map just sitting out of bounds, and for some reason it's fully interactable. But also, below this area, there's a weird, like, untextured version of this room that I'm kind of curious why this is here. But there's a second untextured room. It kind of looks like something out of a Nier Automata. There's nothing really in it. It's just untextured in there. Maybe it just was forgotten about and not deleted. But I think that is it for the sewers. So now we can move on to the offices, which is probably the biggest area in the game, and it has a lot of secret stuff that I want to show. So here we are in the main lobby of the offices, and there's one thing in here that is hidden in the top of the area. It's this hidden message in the CEO's office, or what should be the CEO's office, but it says, "You found yummy delicious secret text." No, the CEO office isn't here in this scene. So I guess this is just a little joke about how this room is deloaded during this scene, and the developers wanted you to have something to look at if you flew up here, so they gave you this little secret text to look at. It's not really too much, it's just a little secret here. But from here we can move to this little side room down here with the elevator in it, and in here we can find the logo for Boundary Break. And this is a channel on YouTube, She Says, that does similar videos like this one, where they take the camera anywhere they want and find secrets and new discoveries to some of your favorite games. And I guess the developers here decided to give him a shout out, and if he ever came through this game and explored it, he'd see this and be like, "What? That's me!" But moving on from there, we can check out the safe room across the hall for our next thing, which is this giant spooked mask that is just sitting outside of this room, like literally like right up against the wall. And these are just giant versions of those masks that you collect for one of the puzzles. And we'll see more of these in other rooms. And this isn't really an off-camera secret, but there's a little mouse down here enjoying his burger, fries, and popcorn. He's just chilling with his little drink and his food, having a nice little time. But the next room I wanted to look at was the theater room. And this one's actually kind of interesting because it's actually connected to the projector room, so both are loaded in this scene. And there's also a weird thing just out of bounds here on the left. There is this, another control panel for, I guess it's the movie reels control panel, and it lets you swap between movies. And I guess this is what controls the projector during certain cutscenes. Like there's one cutscene where the movie automatically changes to another movie while you're watching it. And this is, I guess, what controls that. But other than that, there's nothing else in this room that's out of bounds. So we'll move on to the upstairs now. And the first room upstairs I wanted to take a look at was the room where you have the mask puzzle. And if you take the camera out of bounds here, there are some cat pictures. I'm guessing these are the developers' cats that they decided to put in here. So I guess these cats have been kind of immortalized forever in this game. It's kind of sweet. But from there we can go to the upstairs safe room, where this room has this giant happy mask creeping outside, just kind of staring in through these invisible windows. And again, it's just so creepy thinking that this guy's always here staring at you from outside. And there's another thing like this in the conference room as well, where if you back out of bounds, you can see there's a massive demon mask just overlooking the entire room. And this one's huge, and it's such like a creepy expression on this mask. This one genuinely weirded me out when I found it. I was really like uncomfortable seeing it. But moving on to something a little more goofy from there, in the staircase in the offices, if you take the camera out of bounds, you can see another hand puppet here, and he's just really excited, and he looks like he's about to slam into this stairwell like a missile. But like all the other giant models, he's just kind of here out of bounds at all times. Then if we come in here to the generator room where you fix the elevator, we can take the camera out and you can see the giant puppet dog. Its mouth is just agape and kind of nasty. Ew. But yeah, you can get a good look at this dog, and I actually never noticed it has 6 legs. I never realized that when I was playing the game. But you can just see a giant model of this dog over this room. And then we can go over here to the music room that also has another giant puppet in it. This time it's Ray, but his eyes, I don't know what's up with the eyes on this model. I guess the mouth got pushed back so far that the eyes came through his upper lips, and it just looks so wrong. It's so messed up. It looks like he saw something really scary. I also never realized Ray has a toothpick. I never realized that. But yeah, there's just Ray hanging out looking like he saw something terrifying. But that is all I found in the office, so from here we'll move on to the next location, the public park. The public park doesn't really have a lot in it. I've looked around and I haven't seen any big secret stuff. The only thing I've been able to find is this behind the playground. You can actually see Norman, for some reason, just being a little Spider-Man and crawling up the side of it. And you can also see Slime Kings, which I don't know what that's referring to, but maybe it's a reference to something. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just here. And so is Norman, creeping around in the back of this playset. But that's really all I was able to find in the public park. It didn't seem like there was much hidden out of bounds since it's kind of a smaller area. And so from here, I'll move to the next area, the penthouse. So here we are in the penthouse, and there's nothing in this lobby room where you get out of the elevator, but there is something hidden in the first cardboard room of the penthouse. And it's another giant puppet. This time a like disgusting Liliana model where her neck is just stretched like crazy and it's like hunched over this area. It looks so wrong from this angle. But like most of the giant puppet models, she's just looming over this room, but she's a lot more distorted than any of the other puppets for some reason. And that's what a lot of the secrets on this penthouse floor will be like. Most of them are some of these giant models. Like in this room here, there's a giant cardboard deer, and it's just a bigger version of the wall-mounted deer that you can normally see in this room, but for some reason they decided to make a giant version of it out of bounds. But from here, the next room I wanted to check was the kitchen, which has this giant unfriendly Norman out of bounds in it. This one was super creepy, and one of the first ones I found, and it was really shocking, like just pulling the camera back slightly and seeing this hovering over you, about to eat you. I love it. Then in the computer room, there's this little guy. I think this was a secret in the demo, I believe. You could find this little rat driving his little cardboard car around. Yeah, he's got his little tiny duck with him, just driving, doing his thing as rats do. Just enjoying life. Then over here in the final room, there is some cutouts of all the characters. You can see these in the public park, like the hedge maze in the park, but these are just isolated versions of these that you can see all the different characters and their little cardboard cutouts. You got Ray, you got Ricky, Pearl, Leonard, these 3 hand puppets, I don't know their name, Goblet, George, and Liliana. Then from here we can go back out to the room where Arnold's playing his piano, and above the room you can see some concept art for Arnold. And I guess in concept he was meant to be a singer, but in the final game they moved him to piano instead. Arnold's one of those characters I wish we had more screen time with, because this whole section was, in my opinion, really short and didn't really let you get to know Arnold here, or get to see much of Arnold. I wish there was more, but at least we get this art. But from there we can go to the penthouse safe room, where there's some weird floating cardboard objects in this room. I don't really know why these are here or what purpose they serve. They're just kind of here. Like there's a bookshelf, there's boxes, a fireplace. Maybe this room was going to be something else in a previous version, but it got changed and these all got left here. I don't really know. And from here we can go in this door by the soda machine and go into this cardboard staircase area. where there's the default Unity skybox and some giant sample text just hovering above the area. This isn't really a secret. This may have just been accidentally left here, but I thought it was funny. I always loved sample text. I think like montage parodies kind of ruined or made like the word sample text just funny. It's just the default text you get when you create a text object. And that's it for this little staircase here. Then there's this little outdoor area that doesn't have anything off camera, but behind this little wall here, you can see this book. And this is something that I don't really think I want to get into too much in this video, but this is a language from Ducky Dev's other game, Charlotte's Exile. And if you played that game, you would recognize this language and be able to translate it, but I just wanted to show that this is here. I'll talk about this in another video, but this video has gone on long enough, so I kind of want to keep it moving and not really sit here and explain this. But this is related to another secret in this game that I'll talk about in another video. Then up next, there's this room with the paintings in it, and if you take the camera out of bounds, you can see this giant banana that says, "This room looks like a banana." And yeah, it's true. It definitely does. I'm just like imagining the dev taking a look at this and being like, you know what? This looks like a banana. I'll share this with the world. And so they put this giant banana here. But up next is our final room in the penthouse, the pool room. This one's kind of neat. There's this statue of Arnold right here, and you think it's just like a bust of Arnold that is just cut off, but if you take the camera outside, you can actually see it's a whole model of Arnold, but with this like stone texture on him, and just T-posed outside while his head pokes through it. It looks completely natural from inside, but just taking it outside, it's just this entire model out here, which I thought that was really creepy when I was poking my head around here. And there's also some concept art. This is for Norman, and it's a version of Norman you can see in a lot of the older trailers for the game. He had this red and blue jacket where now it's like a white and red jacket, and his skin tone was a little darker and his hair wasn't brown, it was more bluish gray. But this was the original design for Norman they had, but they changed it down the line, and this was just the original concept. But that is it for the penthouse. There's nothing really else to show in this area. And so from here, I'll go to the end of the game in the Unfriendly Neighborhood, where there's a couple things to show there. So here we are at the entrance to the Unfriendly Neighborhood. And if we take the camera out of bounds here, we can see our first thing down here, which is this concept art for the bosses in the game. The first one you can see is Curtain Call here. And I didn't even realize this boss was a curtain when I fought it. I thought it was just some weird, nasty monster with eyeballs. But it turns out it's supposed to be like a giant curtain boss. And I really love the design for this thing. It's nasty and I love all the eyeballs on it, and it just came out of nowhere in the campaign, and I loved it. And then the second piece of concept art is for the final boss, the Amalgam Muppet. And you can see with the concept art, it really hasn't changed much from the final design we ended up with. And this is such a cool design for a boss too. It's this like mishmash of different puppets all stuffed together, and there's nothing else in the game like it. I really like this boss. But those are just the two things you can find in the Unfriendly Neighborhood entrance. And from here, we can actually go into the Unfriendly Neighborhood, and I have a little bit of stuff I want to show there. There's nothing really out of bounds in that area, but there are some hidden details in that room that I wanted to show. So like I said, in the Unfriendly Neighborhood, there's not really much out of bounds to show, but there are these puppets everywhere that you normally wouldn't be able to see. Like there's all these unfriendly versions of like Norman, Liliana, Leonard hanging everywhere. There's some teeth over here. I think this is supposed to be a June bug, but it bugged out. There's like another Liliana up here in the rafters, like chewing on these wires. There's a June bug down here, sitting with her ice cream. There's a lot of these like unfriendly puppets everywhere in this room that you normally really don't get to see, and they're all just kind of in spots that like you wouldn't look at while you were running away from all the monsters and like fighting the boss in this room. And there's also a weird thing in this area where the doors are still functional. And this area, if you couldn't tell, it's basically a clone of the big soundstage in Stage 4. And so the doors actually function like the doors in the original Stage 4. And they'll take you all the way back to the original stage because it's just a copy of the original, and the doors still function like they would on that map. And I just thought that was a neat thing I wanted to show off. But that's about it for the Unfriendly Neighborhood. There wasn't a lot of out-of-bounds things to show. There was just a lot of like details in that big area. But I just wanted to show those off because I missed them on my first playthrough, and I'm sure other people did as well. There's one last thing though that I wanted to show in the final room of the game, so we'll move ahead to that. And this is the final room of the game here, right before you walk out of the hotel. But if you fly out of bounds, you can see a message left by the developers. It says, "Thanks so much for exploring around. That you played this far into the game means more to us in the development team than you could possibly know." Smiley face. That's a nice little wholesome message from the development team. And I'm really happy that they put this free camp mode in the game. It's really fun to fly around and explore these secrets, and I love that they place these things intentionally out of bounds for people to find. But that is everything in My Friendly Neighborhood. At least everything that I was able to find. I may have missed something. I checked every room in the game, so if you didn't see it in this video, it means I didn't find anything in it. So if you know about something that I missed, let me know, because I really do love this game and I want to learn more about it, so anything I missed would be appreciated if you let me know. But that's all I had today. I hope I was able to show you something in this game that you didn't know about, and I hope you enjoyed it. I also want to make a secrets video for this game, since there's a lot of stuff that I didn't show, and I think they'd be really interesting to talk about. So let me know if that sounds interesting to you. But that is all I had today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.